That hurt. More verticality. Recording in progress. All right. But yeah, it's interesting to think about. I am not sure that a 3-5-2 would be our best formation. I really don't. I don't know, based on who we have. And you could work it out. Like if I sat down and wrote it out, I could probably pick a pretty good team for a 5-3-2 or 3-5-2, and that's all semantics.
Well, again, the problem you'd come across is that some players would be on the bench that would normally be starting in a different formation. So say if you went like with Awaya and Pepe up top, I mean, you push either Pulisic into the midfield or you push Reina into the midfield, but one of those would be sitting on the bench.
So
it'd be tough. I mean, it'd be tough to come up with something like that.
But if you play 3 center backs, that means Brooks is back in the picture, right? Because he's more than familiar with that. I mean, outside of the fact that, you know, Greg doesn't like Brooks and has some sort of personal pepper with him. But Christian Pulisic's role with Chelsea, 2021-22 season, most goals coming off the bench.
Yeah, this is what I don't know. Don't read this. We're going to be watching the video. This is about this is Football Americanos.
Oh yeah, let's do that. I forgot all about the hurt thing.
Yeah.
No, I sent it to you. I sent it to you. I forget about it.
Well, okay, guys, you really need to look at our text messages, which I'll never post. But I asked Derek's like, hey, I'll just use the ESPN FC video of it. So then I put the actual title of the video in there and say, this one? And he goes, no, the one about Tuchel and Pulisic. And so then we have this back and forth for like 5 to 10 minutes. And it turns out he's talking about the same video, but we have this different take when it comes to even on our show. Derek wants to have more information on the thumbnail because he reads the thumbnails. Yep. And I'm about putting enough information on the thumbnails, but the whole content actually in the title. So I was reading the title. He was reading the thumbnail. Yep. And eventually I took a screenshot of it, sent him his way, and he's like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's the one.
It was a fun 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. I don't know if it's generational or it is like, you know, the difference between the ways our brain works. Because I'm like from a very creative, you know, background, musician, artsy, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, maybe you're an IT guy. You're more like, oh, okay, this makes sense. And I'm like, okay,
I'm used to seeing thumbnails with almost like no text on it. So it just depends.
Well, you know, that's the funny thing. I mean, I'll fly through thumbnails or my feed on YouTube and pick videos simply by looking at the thumbnail. That's it. That's how I do it. Doesn't always work. Sometimes I get shit I don't want, but
a bunch of shark videos.
Yeah.
Scuba diving in caves.
Well, I did that on purpose.
Sad. Yeah, okay, real quick before we start, let's go over some of these stats because they really don't talk about them. But yeah, most goals coming off the bench in all comps, 2. Mm-hmm. There's only been only Ruben's been substituted more times than Pulisic. Mm-hmm. 34% of his total minutes have come off the bench. That's a healthy chunk. Number of players have played less, but not many.
Injured for Chilwell. A
lot of them. Well, Chilwell, yeah. Kepa's not seeing the bench seeing the field anytime soon, really, for the most part.
Yeah, I know.
It was funny. I was talking to a guy. One of the teachers at my school was watching the Man U versus Chelsea game today during class. Hopefully, nobody's watching this. I won't tell you who it is.
Yes, stay anonymous.
Yeah, but he was watching it, and I was like, "Man, it's funny that somebody like Kepa, who could be playing for Spain at any moment. Yeah, it's where he's from, right? Spain. He's Spain, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm not a Chelsea fan either, guys, but I would not feel comfortable with him between the pipes. He's just too hit and miss.
Yeah, he lost a lot of confidence. Mm-hmm. And then, Chelsea saw it. That's why they bought Mendy. They're like, this kid
what a fucking smart buy, by the way.
Yeah, no kidding. This kid's fragile, is what they learned about Kepa. So,
yeah, here we are nearing the end of the season. He's got 13 goal contributions, 7 goals, 5 assists, and that's one more from last year. And he was injured for like half the season. So
yeah,
everybody's harping on him this season, saying like, "Oh, this is a bad season." Tuchel's not playing him, but he's still producing.
By the way, folks, what we're going to do to make it easier for certain people to watch some of these, because not everybody likes this format, this long format, is we're going to chop up these. We're going to keep this. This is going to be there, so you can watch the whole goddamn thing if you want. But we're going to chop up other videos into smaller topic sections. This live show, so they can watch it and they can watch the shit they're interested in, and not all the other things they're not interested in.
To use an example, here we're about to start a video, and we're going to go over the stuff with Pulisic here.
Yeah.
And we'll break this segment up when we hit play here. We introduce the video, we'll play it. But not everybody's going to want to wade through almost 40 minutes worth of video before we get to our first topic.
Well, we covered the Pulisic thing pretty well.
To an extent, yeah. I mean, yeah, but it came up. But this will sit down.
All right, let's see what Herc has to say.
But yeah, this is in their reference. Basically, they're referencing what Tuchel has brought up about Pulisic. Not really brought up. Somebody asked him a question, but regardless, here we go.
All right, Herc. So here's a look at some statistics for Christian Pulisic. Interesting, about a third of his minutes have come off the bench. There you also see he's already topped his goal contributions from last year. We still got some games to play. A lot of those minutes off the bench, Herc, recently have been coming for Christian Pulisic. For more on that and the explanation behind it, let's listen into the Chelsea manager, Thomas Tuchel.
So just a general coverage of what we talked about prior to this.
Yep.
We talked about just the highlights more or less, but let's cover what Tuchel says.
At this period when he was on the run, when he had the confidence, when he was heavily involved up front, and Timo had to wait for many, many weeks. Now things turned around a little bit from the Southampton game, and Puli struggled a little bit since he came back from national break, where he had, I think, like 3 matches and an incredible amount of journeys and time zones to cope with. From there, he struggled a bit energy-wise. That was my impression. On and off the pitch.
So yeah, that's basically what we alluded to earlier on.
Right.
You know, just the constant moving around, flying between Mexico to where we play. What is it, Orlando? Mm-hmm. And then back to Costa Rica, and then back to England. It's a lot of flying. In his terms, it's a lot of time zones.
Mm-hmm. I get it. I get some of it.
It can affect it. And don't get me wrong, he came back and he there's a couple of games where he definitely didn't play as well as he should have.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, you can make that argument. To your point earlier, all he had to come out and say, like, hey, he's played a lot of games. I wasn't seeing the energy that I'm used to seeing, so I wanted to give him a little bit of a rest. We'll bring him in slowly, and he'll work his way back in.
Especially a guy that is injured as often as Pulisic is. You might want to treat him with a little bit of kid gloves when he comes back. Whereas Silva has there's no long history of him being injured all the goddamn time, right? So you can probably guess he'll be fine. Mm-hmm. Maybe he saw the videos of Puli drinking Budweiser and got offended. We consider that beer. Could be, yeah, but Budweiser is a German name, so there you go. It is a German
beer.
It is a German style lager. Made the American way, of course, which means it tastes like shit.
Watered down and garbage.
Yeah, bad stuff. It's unbelievable how much better German lagers are. And I'm not even a fan of lagers. Not even a fan. Like, if I go buy a beer, I'm not buying a lager. I want to taste something, So, yeah.
That's why I drink IPAs.
Belgian ale. Yeah, well, that's like eating a bucket full of ass, as far as I'm concerned. I don't need all that bitterness, thank you.
You sound like an IPA, being bitter. All right, let's continue with Herc.
Right. A bucket full of ass.
All right, Herc. Is Thomas Tuchel blaming Christian Pulisic's international duty for his recent slip in playing time? And if so, is it time for the German manager to get lost?
It's been time to get lost, Seb. Are you serious?
Damn.
Are you trying to tell me a 23-year-old can't recover in time? He's got jet lag, but Thiago Silva, who's 38 years old, who does 11-plus-hour flights to Brazil.
Sorry, Herc, I'm not making fun of you. I'm
play
just
South
trying to be more
America,
like you guys.
He's all right. No, this is Thomas Tuchel doing what Thomas Tuchel does. If you're an offensive player, only 2 of them have really shown that they can be in the trust circle of Thomas Tuchel. And that's Mason Mount, and that's Kai Havertz. Everybody else, Ziyech, get on out of here. Lukaku, get on out of here. Timo Werner, get on out of here. Oh, Hudson-Odoi, are you even around? Christian Pulisic,
He wasn't in the 18.
well. This is what he does. He makes these players feel uneasy. He makes them wait. And Christian Pulisic has been through this before. Not just here. He's been through it at Dortmund with them. This is par for the course
Probably
for
when
Thomas
Tuchel was
Tuchel.
there.
If you're telling me this is the reason, come on, man. This is a cop-out.
Yeah.
You didn't like what you saw. Just say it. I don't like what I saw. It has nothing to do with international duty. I don't trust him in this moment. There are others ahead of him. Whatever you want. But don't blame the transatlantic flights and jet lag.
Herc killed it there.
Yeah, he did. I
Killed
mean,
it.
it's a sorry excuse. And if it's true that Pulisic was tired after all that, then that's on Pulisic, honestly. He should not be out of shape. He should not be tired or exhausted or whatever. He's 20, in his 20s. Come
22,
on.
23, yeah, I think it's 23.
I mean, so yeah, I don't think if I were Tuchel, that's the reason I would have given. That's
Well, and again, Herc brings up the point, and you brought it up earlier. Just flat out say, hey, he came out flat. We're putting somebody else in.
Yeah.
He'll get his minutes eventually, and he'll work his way back in. I mean, it's what Pulisic does there. I'm not saying that that's how Pulisic plays, but I mean, periodically there will be bad games. Tuchel will try somebody else. Somebody else will hit fire, and then Pulisic will work his way back eventually.
Nobody's safe in that lineup except for maybe
No.
Rudiger. That's about, and Mendy. Everybody else,
Those are the only 2 that have been basically playing all season. Outside that, Kai Havertz and Mount were roughly about the other ones that were like about 1,800 minutes.
but even Mount went through a little period there where he wasn't
And Havertz
starting.
went out where he wasn't playing.
That's
It
correct.
happened. No players. You're right. No players outside of Mendy and Rudiger were safe.
Yeah, and Ziyech, he starts, then he doesn't, then we don't see him for weeks, and then he comes back and plays and starts. You're like, what the fuck's going on?
Well,
I mean-
he brought up Hudson-Odoi because Hudson-Odoi wasn't even in the lineup this week.
I know.
Against Man U.
And so it's weird. It's almost like Tuchel gets out of bed and has a dartboard of players' names on it. He just tosses 11 of them. And he tosses 9 of them because he's already got a dart stuck in Mendy and stuck in Rudiger
This one.
before he starts tossing,
I think
So-
he's got like a Wheel of Fortune wheel.
or something like that. Yeah. by a wheel for each position. It's like right back. There's the 4 guys.
I need 2 strikers. Go.
What formation am I going to play today? All right, 3-5-2 or something.
1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1-1.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most erratic manager.
That's that really tiny spot of like bankrupt. Like
Yeah.
you're never gonna get it, but if you do get it, you got to run with it.
Well, yeah, when you go to like transfer market, and it always has when you go to there and you look for managers because you want to study all their
You're roboting, Derek.
formation
Or mate, son.
and who they whatever. Yes.
You're here.
You can
You're
hear
right.
me?
Let's roll. Keep going.
Oh, gee. Okay.
All right. Jose says
Fuck.
Poli wasn't tired.
Yeah.
Even in his bad games, you can't say energy isn't there trying. That's BS. Basically, he's saying that the energy's there. Maybe the performance isn't. But again, don't come out saying like, he was flying around a lot, playing games in many countries.
Am I back?
Uh-oh. You're back now. Yes. Can you hear me,
Jesus, what the hell happened?
Derek? All right. Well, let's continue with this while we wait for Derek to return.
Lag.
Yeah, if the issue here is, did the international window cost Christian Pulisic his starting job? I think
difficulties.
the answer has to absolutely be yes. We just have to look at the stats for that. The 7 games before the international window, he started Sorry,
Are
in the
you
7
sure about
games
that?
before the international window.
Are you
out of the
sure
8
about that?
Sorry, let me get this right.
There you
8 games before the international window, he started 5.
Okay.
The 7 games since, he started just 1. So clearly the international window was the difference there.
It's a fun stat to talk about. I mean, you starting a lot just before you go on the window, window for the qualifier, and then you come back after the window and you start like 1 and 7 or whatever the fuck he said. It's a fun one to talk about because it does kind of make sense that maybe the window did play a factor there. Maybe he came out a little flat. I don't know. Yes, Chris, I did banish him to the Shadow Realm. Oh. He'll be back, I'm sure. If he has to restart his computer, we'll see him back in about 10 minutes. Hopefully people are clocking this.
I guess my question is, Herc, is it fair? I was always under the understanding that there was kind of an unspoken rule, right? You go off on international duty. If you're a starter, you don't necessarily lose your job for leaving on international duty. But then I was talking to Shaka Hislop on ESPN FC today, and he's like, nah, that's not really how it works. So maybe we can't fault Tuchel for that. What I would say here, though, is I am worried about Christian Pulisic because you see a player score a goal and you think, oh, all right, that means he's going to get more starting minutes. But we know Tuchel doesn't see it like that, right? He sees the comfort of what happened and the confirmation of what happened. I put this guy in the 90th minute like I always used to do, and he delivered like a super sub. I don't necessarily think that goal is going to.
All right, so Seth brings up a great point here. And this is something that Tuchel brought up early on in his tenure with Chelsea. And he talked about how he always maybe it's the curse of having coached Pulisic at a younger age, but maybe he thinks that Pulisic is nothing more than just a super sub.
I hope not.
And now, since then, of course, he's started a number of games and he's played well and everything like that. So I don't think he's necessarily thinking that anymore. But there's still that thought process, like, well, he's not performing as well. I'll bring him in late as a game changer. And then it's a number of games where he does that. And I'm hoping that changes. But then again, we saw it today against Man U. He didn't start. He got like 20 minutes.
Yep.
So
that was my internet connection.
I vamped. I went ahead a couple minutes here on the show. So we're good.
Okay, good.
All right, let's continue on.
I was able to get a refill while
He
reconnecting.
starts in the Champions League. He plays 2 games against Lille. He scores in both games. And Thomas Tuchel, doesn't see that performance and go, you know what? Maybe I should start him more. But now because he sees him score off the bench, you're telling me he's going to stick with that and say, I got to sub him more. He's going to be my super sub. That's his go-ahead. That's his train of thought there. I'm not buying it. This is Thomas Tuchel. This is what he does. He did it with Lukaku. He's doing it with Lukaku. How do you spend that much money on a player, over $100 million transfer fee on a player, and let him go to waste like that? You don't think it's going to do it with Christian Pulisic? I mean, Timo Werner, when he came over from Leipzig, did the same thing. Ziyech, when he comes over from the Eredivisie, he does this with players. This has nothing to do with Christian Pulisic, everything to do with Thomas Tuchel. You look at Christian Pulisic's numbers, goals and assists per minutes played. I guarantee you it's up there with the best in the Premier League. I guarantee you per 90 minutes played, it's up there. This is Thomas Tuchel and him
just
doing what
behind
Thomas
Mount,
Tuchel does.
like you mentioned earlier.
You mentioned guys like Lukaku. You mentioned guys like Werner. I feel like those were way more form things. I don't know that you can necessarily, as clearly anyway, point to Christian Pulisic's form here.
Love the candor back and forth between them.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's the great thing about that show. There's a lot of disagreements, and you can tell, man, they've had some long nights of arguing with one another at the bar somewhere, you know. But I think the thing about Tuchel, and I'm not going to generalize how all Germans are, because that's not fair. But one of the things that how Klopp, for instance, is so different from Tuchel. Like, Klopp is emotionally connected with his players. You can tell that, you know. And Tuchel's more of an old school German guy. There's not a lot of emotion. Yeah, he'll pump his fist when they score or whatever, but it doesn't seem like he's like a player kind of guy. Like, oh, I gotta make you feel good. I don't think a lot of players on that team get compliments, honestly.
When looking through for thumbnails, 90% of them is either him stern looking or doing the what.
Yeah.
Not many of them going woo or anything like that, you know.
I mean, you see Klopp, he'll run out and hug his players and shit and, give them love. And I just think he knows how to, in a very un-German way, in some ways. I'm German. I had a grandfather. He was like old school German. So I know what that's like.
There.
Whereas Klinsmann is more like, Tuchel. Like, it's emotionally, So, I think that might be that's something we haven't considered really is like not every German coach
the personality of the coach
is going to be the kind of guy you want coaching, let's say, a very emotional team, which I'm not saying Chelsea is, but people do have emotions, but Tuchel does not give a fuck about your emotions. That hurt. More verticality. Recording in progress. All right.